Hi, I'm Scott McLean from transmusicmastery.com, and in this video I'm going to reproduce the Propane patch on Massive, and this patch was originally programmed by Adam Sabo for the Zebra 2 synthesizer. And so what I'm going to do is just quickly play the original patch so that we can hear that. A lot of reverb in that patch and also very bright sound. So let's go ahead and I'm going to disable each of the modules in Zebra 2 and start at Oscillator 1. And so quickly looking at Oscillator 1, it uses 11 voices, detune is at 12, no oscillator effect, mixer volumes increase slightly from the default value, and width is at maximum, so it's as wide as it can be. So what I want to do first is just replicate this sound that's coming from Zebra. So let me play that. And that's the Massive init preset right there that you just heard. Okay, so we can hear that detuned saw wave. So the first thing we want to do is set up Oscillator 1 and in fact get our routing set up. So if we look at the Propane patch, it's basically going to use just a single lane, 3 oscillators, and then those are going to go through a filter. So what I want to do with Massive is set the filter serial parallel routing, set that fader all the way up so that it's at serial, and that will cause the output of filter 1 to go through filter 2. And we're not going to use filter 2, but this way we have a simplified routing and we don't get that parallel effect. We could also, I guess, leave this parallel here and then just have filter 2's output at 0 and then have filter 1 at maximum. Okay, so let's go ahead and select a pulse saw PWM as our waveform. Set the pulse saw position fully clockwise and then the amp all the way up. And with that, now the question becomes, okay, how do we detune? Well, one, how do we stack waves in Massive? And then the next one is how do we detune them? So to do that, we need to go to this special page called Voicing. So click here. And we're going to set the max voices to 64 because we're going to need many voices for this patch. And the unisono right now is at 1, which means we have one single wave form being played by Oscillator 1. If I set that to 2, so I'm going to set that to 11, and that will emulate the 11 here that is set for Oscillator 1. Now we want to detune these voices away from one another, and we can do that by enabling this switch here. This is the pitch, and this allows us to detune across a 1 semitone range. Now I'm going to decrease the volume level on Massive here. And because I'm almost at the end of the range here, I'm going to decrease the actual amount that this is detuning, that this fader control is detuning across, which will give me much finer control. So what I'll do is set this to 0 actually, and just move this to the middle. And then I'm going to increase this. Now you notice the changes. What's happening is when I change back and forth, you should be able to notice that the Zebra 2 sound is spreading out wide, and then when I switch to the Massive sound, it's coming into the center. So let me do that again. So massive is going to start in the center. Okay, to spread out the massive sound, to make it wider, we can enable this pan position switch and spread these unisono, these voices, the stacked waveforms, spread those across the stereo spectrum. Okay, that's pretty close. I'm going to leave it like that. Now let's bring in the next oscillator, Oscillator 2. That's also 11 voices, tuned, pitched 12 semitones, so it's up 1 octave. The detune amount, 19.5, so it's detuned as well. Now here's a difference in massive compared to Zebra 2 and Silent 1. So in Zebra 2 and Silent 1, we can detune the individual oscillator, and we can have each oscillator have its own number of voices. Well, in massive, we only have this global setting. That's not per oscillator, that's the total number of voices across all oscillators. So what we need to do is increase this number to account for the additional voices that are being added by Oscillator 2. Let me just bring that up. So we have a total of 22 voices from Oscillator 1 and 2. And the other thing is we can't detune Oscillator 2 by a different amount from Oscillator 1 because our detune amount is controlled by this pitch, this unisono spread here. So that presents a challenge within massive in replicating exactly this particular patch, but we can try to come close. So let me do that now. So the first thing I'm going to do is increase the number of voices here for unisono to 22. And just try to match what I'm hearing in Zebra 2. So we want to increase set oscillator 2 and set the waveform to pulse saw PWM. Make sure the pulse saw position is fully clockwise. Pulse width and amp all fully clockwise. Now the other thing we want to check is globally, it is globally tuned at -12, so that matches the global tune setting for Zebra 2 as well. So in fact, we do just want to increase this pitch +12 to match what Oscillator 2 in Zebra 2's tune setting is, because it's up 1 octave as well. So let's hear it now. So I'm going to adjust some of this pitch spread here, which corresponds to the detune amount. Now the other way to detune these is to use the actual pitch on the oscillator itself, but that does not necessarily correspond to the individual stacked waves. Okay, I think that's pretty close. And let's go ahead and bring in oscillator 3 now. This uses 11 voices as well, slight detuning, and it's fully wide as well. So let's go ahead and set that up with oscillator 3. Set it to pulse saw PWM. And here we want to increase the unisono to 33. Because we've just added 11 new waves with this oscillator. Okay, that's pretty close. So next, let's add VCF1. So this is a low-pass filter with a little bit of drive, cut off all the way at maximum. So for filter 1, I'm going to set that to a low-pass 4-pole filter. Okay, we could also try some of these other filter types like Daft. Okay, next we can bring in the EQs. I'm going ahead and enable both of these and try to match that EQ sound. That's pretty close, but you do hear that there's one element that's present in the Zebra 2 sound. There's like that higher pitched detuned saw wave component to this sound on Zebra 2 that's missing from Massive, and that one's coming, I believe, from this 1 octave higher oscillator 2 setting with its individual 11 detuned. These are detuned separately from the ones produced by oscillator 1 and the ones produced from oscillator 3, and we don't have that capability within Massive because basically all of these 33 voices are being detuned by this amount. We don't have that individual control over them like we do, at least on a per oscillator basis, like we do in Zebra 2. So that's one reason, I think, for the difference. Okay, so next, let's go ahead and add the reverb. This reverb has a different color from that in Zebra. Zebra 2 sounds brighter. That's probably as close as we're going to be able to make it. Okay, and the next component is a compressor, and Massive does not have a separate compressor built in. So let's hear if we can hear what kind of effect this compressor is having on this Zebra 2 patch. So it appears that it's basically compressing the signal and helping to just tame some of the dynamics, initial dynamics, due to the attack and release settings here. One thing we can do with Massive to try to emulate that a little bit is adjust the envelope so that the attack, we bring the decay level down a bit. So a little bit of flexibility in the envelope on Massive. We could have the attack come lower and then have a convex shape on the decay envelope, or a concave decay envelope. But I don't think we're going to be able to replicate the compression portion of this patch. So let's just see what kind of match we can get with the envelope. Alright, I think that's probably pretty close now, so let me play the overall patch with the sequence, see how that sounds. Okay, Zebra 2 sound has much more low end, so let's try to get that closer using Massive. Okay, that's pretty close, so I think that's probably about as close as I can get it using massive. And let's just play that one more time. And then here's the Zebra 2 version. And then finally both, I'll just switch back and forth. And that's it. I'll see you in the next video.